Hello. Something I'd like to pose as a question, and it may mean asking another YouTube channel, and that is how many have handled and actually seen these old maps? What I mean by that, we're taught that north is up. It's always orientated where north is at the top of the map, but many channels have shown older maps where east is orientated so it is at the top of the map. But what is the source of that? Now, something else to bear in mind with this, and I'm going to talk from a personal experience. I have held personally parish registers that date back to the 1600s. I am no expert, but based on the assessments and sort of intellect, when I'm holding these books, they would seem to be of the age that they are said to be. And they seem to be genuine from the 16th, 17th, 18th, or 19th century. But I can't be 100% certain on that. Certainly this reality is very complex, and there's plenty of evidence that timelines seem to jump, and you have this thing called Mandela effect. But what I noticed with those parish registers, I'm talking about England and Wales only here, but I don't know about the rest of the world. Presumably they followed suit, like with American registers and so on. But up to, what year was it? 1754, I think it's the Rose Act. There started to be separate marriage registers. Up until that time, it was originally it was birth and then baptism, marriage and burial. So you had a period of time from 1754 where the marriages became separate register books. Then in 1812, the baptism and the burial books became separated and they're on pre-printed pages with generally, I think it's 8 entries per page. And the books have numbered pages, and they could be ordered from central government, as it were, with set numbers of pages. I forget the figures. But the point is, there is a very different feeling when you hold what would be a composite register, the early ones, the separated marriage registers, and there's a very different feeling from the baptism and burial registers. Obviously, the baptism and the burial are more impersonal in the fact that what is recorded there is by somebody else. But with the marriage registers from 1754, it is either a signature or a mark made by the bride and the groom. So there is a feeling in those registers that is distinct, the marriage registers, from the baptisms and the burials. I've also get this same sensation when I see old black and white film or photography. Take, for example, the Market Street San Francisco post-earthquakes and fires. The energy from these people that you see on that film footage is, I could only describe it as either traumatized or zombified. They don't seem to be walking with any particular purpose. Whereas when you see more modern photography and more modern film footage, certainly with photographs, I can pick up an energy that is captured in that photograph. Notice that these words are not coincidental when they say about capturing an image in a photograph. It does seem to capture an image or a blueprint of your essence, your soul, and there are certainly many tribes around the world, and also, like readily comes to mind, the Amish community, who refuse to have their photo taken. There's obviously a reason for that, whether it's a superstition or whatever. It's like everything. If there's enough belief in it being, then people will act in a certain way. So when I look at a more modern photograph, say from the 1970s, that's in colour, of a person, I find I can read the energy, and it is not showing the energy that is captured in that time and space, but it seems to emit their current energy. And obviously you can get feelings and things that there's no factual anything that you can point to, but it's just in the feeling. If you experience it, you already know what that's like. So getting back to the point of the maps, has anybody, this is my question, has anybody actually physically held one of these old maps where the east is orientated at the top of the map? And if so, do you get any sort of feeling? I also consider that the sun rises in the east. Now obviously it doesn't matter whether you're using a equidistant flat earth map or a globe. There's no actual east, it just keeps going round and round. But the sun, from our perspective, whatever you think the shape is of this thing, this reality, the sun will appear to rise in the east. Now, if the maps have been given a quarter turn, as it were, it's been moved 90 degrees and reorientated. What about when we look within? From the perspective of the mind, where the thinking occurs, where is the solar plexus? I said on a video a long time ago that this is an upside down world, and the only ones that are up the right way are the bats. And Rudolf Steiner talks about plants and trees as being upside down man, the root ball being the brain, which is in the earth, and what would be their feet, as it were, are actually their branches, and they sort of going upward towards the light, but they're, compared to a human, they're up, and the animal world, they're upside down, using that analogy. So when we turn inwards and look to the solar plexus, it's actually downward or south. So the sun would appear then to be coming from the south when we look at our internal structure and view it from the perspective of the mind. And of course the earth is the heart, the green chakra, the mid chakra, the middle earth. And of course the sun has to rise and come above the earth. It would be like the Passover, which is also why I feel this coming spring equinox is going to be massive for many of you, and you're going to feel a lot of things, sort of upgrades, as it were, to your spirituality. Nothing to fear. I was listening a little while ago to the Tree of Knowledge channel, Sonya and her daughter Wendy, in a question and answer session, and I recommend that you go and have a listen to that. And it's amazing, the synchronicity. I basically said in the last video about the fall of man being, we're like Humpty Dumpty and we're all fragmented shards. The Broken Heart, as True Love 2 channel, and True Love on True Love channel talks about humanity and this reality being a stage, and we're fragmented, and we need to come back together as one, as it were. And of course the apples don't fall far from the tree, so past lives you're in contact with the same souls. This is exactly what Sonya has said on the Tree of Knowledge channel. And it's amazing, her last video, this question and answer session, she talks about the Humpty Dumpty, and that was concurrently when I was uploading a video. Well, I also mentioned Humpty Dumpty. She also mentioned, in response to a question about seeing 7-Eleven, and I happened to look at this phone, and what time was displayed on there but 11:07. This is the sort of joke, divine comedy part of this reality and the way it works. It's like, also comes down to what gave me the thought to even look at the phone, and was it any surprise when I saw that number? I'm not making a judgment one way or the other. I'm just reporting what I have witnessed, what I have observed. But it's all in the feeling, whether it be holding a book. I mean, if you think about it, the marriage register, out of those three, when they become separate, as baptism, marriage and burial, the marriage register stands out because that is the only one of those three classifications of register where the bride and groom have actually made physical contact with the book, where they put their X or their cross or their mark or their signature. And generally, well, I hope generally, that marriages were a union based on love. So some of that energy has gone into that, in the same way that you can taste the difference between homemade food that is cooked with love, that is homegrown, as opposed to a ready microwave 2-minute meal that is just manufactured, and it's just a process and not very satisfying. And doesn't food taste bland to you? Is it any wonder that there's so many chili salt flavoured this and that? It's to sort of sharpen up and hide the fact that there is no natural flavours. Well, this is my personal observation and perspective, and what my senses are telling me, that food is bland. Some of the fruits, for example, every now and again I'll get something like an easy peel satsuma. It's clearly genetically modified and there is a metallic taste to it, and it's like, that doesn't get digested, that gets spat out, because the inner feeling is telling me don't eat that. So, but I'm not going to import the worry of anything that's already gone down in the saliva. These bodies are self-healing, but of course we have to take active steps as best we can. Be aware of these things, but don't feel the fear of, oh my God, I've only got access to supermarket food. Well, if you look at the sort of history of food that's implied from basically the 1900 onwards, and how increasingly it has become more processed, more manufactured. There was the big thing in the 1970s with E-numbers and things, and you had that whole period of this sort of argument as whether butter or margarine was better for you. And yet, if you've lived through that and you're still here, you're actually very resilient. This is why you have this opposite external presentation of so much. And why would it need to be so elaborate? But really, it is not actually designed to kill you. It is just designed to keep you at a barely alive state, in the lowest possible vibration, because you are easy pickings, you are easy food of your energy. That is what it is harvesting. There is a grim reaper, which is always depicted as something to be fearful, something you meet at the point of death. But the grim reaper is just a harvester. It is picking the best. It is that which has grown in good soil and has been ripened. It is selecting that. And of course, it tears you from top to bottom, cuts you in half right down the spine, as Neville Goddard describes. It is looking for that seed inside, that light, that Christ consciousness, and whether it has grown within you. And of course, when you find that Christ consciousness within inside yourself, and you truly find out and feel and know who you are from that feeling and from that experience, however it comes to you, you have, just like is shown in religion, you have a reformation. You reform yourself. This is what is talked about of Christ pulling down the temple that took 46 years to build and rebuilt in 3 days. Forget about the devil is in the detail. Disregard about years and days, because we are in 2 days, a conscious one and a sleeping one, and it is separated as time frames. But the 46 is the double 23. It's the chromosomes of your parents. 2 23s are 46. But when you reform yourself and you recreate yourself, that is your Trinity. That's why it's in the 3. It's mind, body, and spirit, as it were. The mind, the heart, the gut feeling are all in alignment. It is the alchemical marriage of the matter, the material, and the pater, the pattern, which is the Christ consciousness, which is the spiritual glue, which is the mirror opposite of the black goo, which, as Sonya says on the Tree of Life, oil is sentient. It is the blood of earth. It's a biocomputer, so it's not a computer in the sense that we understand it as being just an AI technology. This is a far older technology. These human bodies, these avatars, are they were designed and made perfect, and they're self-repairing. So they're built to a design, a technology that is outside of our present understanding of what technology is. Because a lot of people are triggered by these words like simulation, avatar, hologram, and so on. But remember, they are only labels. It is like any story. Focus on the story and the deeper meaning of it. Forget about the details when something is historically set as being at a particular time and turned into something secular, when it is actually metaphysical. That's all religion is, after all, as Ken Wheeler says. It is secularized metaphysics. That's why when you look in the Bible, you can see all the astrological observations and references about the sun seeming to die for 3 days and rising again, which it does on the 25th of December. But of course, the resurrection in the Christian religion has been given a quarter turn and moved to the spring, around about the time of the spring equinox. But funny how Easter doesn't have a fixed date. It's the first Sunday after a full moon, after the spring equinox. So it's following something astrological. Likewise, these 3 magi that followed this star of Bethlehem, if that isn't observing and tracking a star, if that isn't astrology, please tell me what is. But the story has been that particular story, which just plays out over and over again. I mean, just look at Revelations at the very end. It is setting things up for the next Genesis, the reset, when everything is then having to be recreated. And that's why it says about go forth and multiply and replenish the earth, because it has already happened many times before. Macros and micros, you don't remember your past lives. Well, does this version of humanity remember its past pre-reset era and before that reset? You can access these things, of course, but bear in mind, say for example you went through a car windscreen, the brain will automatically shut out such a horrific event. It will shut out death, it will shut out the experience of birth, because they are so horrific. And do you really want to relive those things? Is there anything to be gained by it? And I've said this to people who've pondered the idea of having past life regressions and things, and be careful. you really do need to weigh up inside. Be careful what you wish for, because you may unlock something rather unpleasant that you don't feel equipped at that time to handle. I would personally go with doing the internal work, raising the vibration. The external will match your frequency, because you're tuning in to a different frequency, so you will pick up new things. The things will then come as and when you are ready to receive them. Again, it talks about this, about ask and you shall receive, and all this sort of thing. You can give it a religious twist or whatever, but religion is just another side of science. I mean, think about it. The Bible is effectively, in its present form, in whatever version, is a peer-reviewed paper. A group of men who self-appointed or whatever and thought them holier than thou, just like science, the science community does. Everything is peer-reviewed, and you're not part of this circle. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not qualified to talk about this thing. Well, again, this reality is very materialistic, and it's all about having these awards and diplomas and pieces of paper with certificates and things. But where does the knowing from feeling come into that? Because how do you even prove to the outside world what you know to be true, which you experience through feeling? The only ones that will understand are the ones that have been through the experience. So a prime example is talking about panic attacks and talking about anxiety, talking about depression. When you are depressed, you are in deep rest. You've pulled the shell right around yourself. You've shut yourself off. Because the intensity is part of a waking up process. If you've been through depression, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've not been through it, you only have a concept of it. And this is the thing with this reality. It's opening yourself up by raising your vibration to open yourself to the new experiences. These are some of the doorways that Sonya talks about. You're not physically walking through a door. It's a metaphysical door, and that door opens. When one door closes, another one opens, is the saying. So what happens when you close the door on doubt and fear? It's going to open another door. You're going to get new experiences. You're going to be open to more things. The ringing in the ears and things, the intensity of that is just one example. What do you consider it to be? That's up to you. I have my own personal opinion on it, and I've said that I feel a lot of it is a spiritual communication, the thought wave that gives us these synchronistic thoughts across different videos, different channels. But also, you've got broadcasts going through the air. Even from cell towers, you've got Wi-Fi and things. It's in the air, it's going through you all the time. So some of that ringing can also be from that side as well. It comes down to discernment again, weighing it up inside. But whatever it is, are you going to take the fear from it and allow that to pull you back down into a lower vibration where you're now in the fight or flight, faint or fawn? Or are you going to rise above it? Are you going to do like the sun and pass over? Are you going to pass the earth plane, heart line, and aim to go above to then pull down? So the mind is actually coming from the heart space, not from the lower conscious. I mean, this is a useful tool, but if you want to know the value of it, I suggest you look at the Egyptian mummification process, how they valued the organs as compared to how they valued the brain and what they did with those respective organs and the brain in the mummification process. I feel there is the answer to what is the real mind that we should be operating from, which is always from the heart, from a place of love. So just a few thoughts there. So bear in mind what I'm basically saying is it looks like the orientation of this reality has been given a 90-degree turn, but at the same time it also been flipped, because the place of the sun is the solar plexus. As you look at it, it is below you, so therefore it would imply it's downward and south. And going back to that biblical thing about Moses with the serpent, the Son of Man must be raised up. It's going on within you. It's like a serpent. It's basically all you are is a brain and a sort of spine. It's like a long tail. You're like a tadpole, basically. And then you get these avatar frogs with limbs to operate in. But that's essentially, in a physical sense, that is all you really are. But you are far more than that, because you're not limited to the physicality. You are greater within than anything without. And your true power comes from... Actually, has any of you tried that, doing that meditation and going into the heart? Because you already know. You'll have experienced it, you'll have witnessed it, you'll have observed it. You'll just know from that. And that's a beautiful thing. That's empowering, and certainly a place to keep visiting frequently. Frequency. Frequent keys, it opens doors. Home is where the heart is, after all, and it's right in the center of the chakra system. How beautiful is that, that it's so simply shown to us, and yet this reality gives us so many distractions to try and tear us away and pull us away from it. So it can just feed off us. It's like this free energy of earth. How many channels actually talk about where that is being used and what it is being used for? Because it is humanity that is doing this. Things are always a half-truth. They will tell you that mankind is doing this. So in a way, yes, mankind is doing it, but it's by being tricked into giving your power away. That is how it's done. But as more of us take it back, it's going to cause an opposite and equal reaction. So don't make a fuss about it. Take responsibility that you are causing it. As you raise your vibration, the mirror, the Maya, the external world will present something more horrific to try and pull more back out of that. Because it's like the lower I consciousness in the way it sort of thinks, shall we say, that it wants to stay safe. It doesn't want change. It feels like it's going to die. It feels like it's going to perish, like your lower self-ego feels like it's being destroyed and it's drowning, but it's not. You just have to give it love. Love is the only force there is that is stronger than anything else. And of course that comes from the heart. All comes back to the heart. So this was supposed to be a much shorter video, but it didn't end up shorter as usual. We seem to be hitting around the 30-minute mark, but 3, in numerology, it's a trinity, because this is appealing to the avatar you, the physical part that would have to select to watch and listen to the video, and then obviously your senses of hearing and seeing. Then of course the weighing up inside. So it's right that it's 30 minutes in a way, or almost 30 minutes. It's another little sign by the day, I would say. But yeah, just think about those maps, and I'm not saying they're untrue or they're true, but who has actually physically held one? Is there anybody out there who can say, yes, they definitely have, and then describe what feeling? Does it feel genuine as far as you can assess? Just little things to ponder and weigh up, and maybe indication of pole shift within inside oneself, where you see where the sun really is when you go within. Love to you all, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.